Thank you for listening to Dream 10X Radio, where we interview people attempting to live extraordinary lives. Our twofold purpose is to both direct and inspire people bold enough to do the same. Dream 10X. Face your fears and make your life count. Hi all, welcome to Dream 10X episode 15. I'm James Capel.
And I'm Cynthia Capel.
And we're back for episode 15, like I said. We took a break last weekend because of why, Cindy?
Because we ran till our legs fell off.
It's been a good 2 weeks. We've done a lot of, I feel like we've accomplished a lot in these last 2 weeks. Last was a Halloween weekend. Mm-hmm. We went down to Farmville, Virginia, because one, we like it down there, and two, because there's a nice long Virginia trail. It's called the High Bridge Trail, High Bridge Path,
High Bridge Trail. Yeah.
And you can get on it right there in Farmville, in the town of Farmville, off of the main road there. And you can just go for 15 to 16 miles.
Yep. And then you can go the opposite direction too.
Yeah. We didn't do that though. We just went the one way that went across this really high. So it's an old railroad trail from the Civil War, from what I gathered.
Oh, and Dad says it was actually telegraph poles.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see the old telegraph poles along the trail too that were accompanying the railroad when it was there. And we ran on that trail. It was really cool because Cindy's plan was to do an out and back. So we ran 15 miles out on the trail, and then we ran 15 miles back, and we went over the High Bridge Railroad trellis part of the way, which I guess was maybe 50 to 80 feet above the Appomattox River.
Mm-hmm. It was so cool.
And it was really, really neat. Really cool experience. I was scared to death. It was so high. I'm scared to death of heights. But
you did good.
I survived. That was the hardest part, was going across the bridge. 30 miles was okay compared to the bridge. But we finished that 30-mile run. And we walked a big part of it, maybe starting around mile 22.
Yeah, so we ran quite a bit of it as well.
Yeah, and then about around mile 22, I was like apathetic and like, I'm done with this.
Well, it's 22 adventure. Miles of running straight. I mean, what do you want? That's a lot of running.
Yeah, I found that my knee joints were really bothering me. My ankle joints were really hurting. My hip joints, my joints just fell apart for some reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can train that or not, but every time we run these long runs, my joints really start bothering me.
Yeah, my knee always hurts after we're done.
And then the next day we stayed in bed, literally it was our anniversary weekend too. And so that Sunday, that was it. We stayed in our hotel room.
Sunday was sponsored by Advil Coffee and Champagne.
Yeah. Did not move a muscle.
It was
pretty
brilliant.
much for the rest of the day. And then by Tuesday, back to normal again. Soreness was pretty much gone.
Yeah.
But that completed our Marine Corps Marathon trifecta. So we ran a 10K for the Marine Corps Marathon. We ran a 10K, we ran the marathon, and that Halloween weekend we ran the 50K, which is 30 miles. And we'd never done that before, never thought we could do it, and we accomplished it. And it was really cool. And we did it on our weekend anniversary, which was especially special. So then after that, this past week, I've been reading this book called What It Takes by Schwarzman. And he is the CEO of the Blackstone investment group. And I'm really interested in reading about billionaires, because, I mean, who doesn't want to know how billionaires made their money and how they became so wealthy? It's just really intriguing that there are Americans and people throughout the world who are worth billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to wrap your head around.
Billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill in 2014, and that book admonishes you to write, think of some huge goals and write them down and think about it and it claims that, as you think more about your huge goals, you can actually achieve them. And so I, on a whim, I just like, in 10 years, I want to be worth $100 million.
Because it makes sense, because it changes how your brain operates.
Maybe, I don't know.
How long have you been doing this? How long have you been writing your goals?
For a long time.
What's a long time?
Since I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Well, since college at least, I've been writing my goals.
Have you achieved your goals?
A lot of them I have, yeah. A lot of them I haven't.
How did writing them down help you?
It helps you focus on them. It makes them more pressing matter. When you write a goal down for the year, like I'm always like, well, I said I was going to do this for the year, so at some point within the next 12 months, I got to get it done. It creates a sense of urgency, I guess. But this was a 10-year thing, so but 100 million. So when I think of billionaires, like if I could read a book written by a billionaire and learn something that would help me make 1% or 1/10% of what they're worth, bada bing, I hit my goal.
So what's the difference between you and how you think and all these billionaires that you read?
So that's why one of the reasons I wanted to read Stephen Schwarzman's book.
Yeah.
To figure out. So he wrote a lot about his life in here, and so I'm like trying to absorb this book and figure out what is it about him that makes him in particular so able to become so wealthy.
So now that you're done, are we going to be wealthy now?
No, but I do have some takeaways from his book that I wanted to talk about.
Awesome.
And the last billionaire that I read about was Ted Turner. Ted Turner is one of my heroes. I just love that guy. He's like a cowboy. He's like a billionaire cowboy, and he's the guy I want to be like. He's a sailor too, so I really love Ted Turner. I think he's awesome. But anyway, back to Stephen Schwarzman. What it takes. This was a lot more interesting book than what I thought it was going to be. And so I had 6 big takeaways from this book. And the first one, in thinking about how he became so successful, I definitely think his educational pedigree had a big bearing on that. So he graduated from Yale undergrad, and then he graduated from Harvard Business School. And so right away, I mean, that puts him probably in the, I don't know, top 2% of the population right away in terms of education pedigree. And
especially back in that day, people always looked at where you went to school versus what you learned.
Yeah. And he doesn't say it outright in the book, but I think his takeaway was that even though he had these degrees, he didn't have what he needed to become successful yet.
Yes, enter current university standards.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother topic.
My takeaway from the read is that he learned what he needed to become. He learned what he needed to be successful in finance by working at Lehman Brothers.
Yeah.
And I think, again, my interpretation of what I read was that his degrees from Yale and Harvard helped him get a job at Lehman Brothers, where he really learned what he needed to learn to become successful in finance. So the experience, experience doing on the job work, doing real stuff in finance is what taught him what he needed, and the connections he made there as well.
So it seems like the perception of this highfalutin education got him in the door. So the aesthetics of that. So you went to Harvard and you went to Yale. So clearly that's all fancy. Yeah. So we'll let you in. But then you actually learned stuff once you got into the work. Yeah, and also the connections he made at Yale. He was in Skull and Crossbones. So was George. And he was what is Skull and Crossbones?
It's some secret society at Yale. I don't know anything about it other than the name. But he met George Bush there in that society, and probably a lot of other people in high position who went on to important positions.
So it's kind of like a little fraternity or something?
Fraternity with very high power connections. Okay. For sure. So that definitely, I think, gave him a leg up right off the bat.
Yeah.
Well, is that something I can do to become a billionaire? I'm already done at that point. The second big takeaway I learned from this book was about this guy named John Gray. And John Gray was a guy who got hired by Blackstone, which is Stephen Schwarzman's investment firm in 1992. And if my math is correct, John Gray was like 21 years old when he got hired.
Oh, wow.
And he got hired out of Wharton, I think, liberal arts undergrad degree there. I don't think he went to Wharton. It might have been Wharton. Anyway, he came out of. It might have been Wharton, but he was 21 years old when he went to work there.
Yeah.
And started managing the real estate portfolios there, and just crushed it working there. And now, and John Gray is my age, and now he is in line to be the next CEO of Blackstone, and his net worth is $4 billion. Same age as me, but worth $4 billion. And so, when I saw his age and how reading about him in this book, it just jumped off the page of me like, holy cow, he got hired so young.
Yeah.
And what a success. I mean, just working for somebody else, and it was a huge success there at Blackstone.
Yeah.
I'm just really, it was really nice to read about that, and I wish I was like him.
What do you wish? Like, what do you like about that?
I wish I was hugely successful like that. I wish I had that Midas touch, Like, whatever project I get put on was like hugely successful and made the company tons of money and all that.
Yeah.
And that just sounded like the way he rolled, or the way he has rolled since he's been there. And now he's next in line to take over as the company leader. It's just awesome. The third thing that I took away from this was the 3 litmus tests for entrepreneurship that Stephen Schwarzman shared in the book that I just want to read real quick. He says, if you're going to start a business, I believe it has to pass these 3 tests. And these 3 tests are: first, your idea has to be big enough to justify devoting your life to it. Make sure it has the potential to be huge. So he's kind of saying the same thing that you'll hear from Silicon Valley venture capitalists. We're only going to invest in ideas that are unicorns, that are going to be billion-dollar ideas. So he's agreeing with that. You gotta start a company that has a billion-dollar potential. That's how you become a billionaire. Second, it should be unique. When people see what you are offering, they should say to themselves, my gosh, I need this. I've been waiting for this. This really appeals to me. Without that, you're wasting your time. I guess that seems kind of obvious, but. And then third, your timing has to be right, which is another thing that I've heard a lot. The world actually doesn't like pioneers, so if you are too early, your risk of failure is high. And so the thing that pops into my mind when I read that is AI.
It seems really, really tricky and a very delicate balance to because you want to do something new
luck.
and innovative.
That's almost luck right there.
I totally agree
with
that.
You just get lucky and your timing is right.
Yeah.
So.
Because you want to do something new that people are like, oh, this is the thing I've always wanted. Yet if it's too early, then you're obviously screwed. So how do you really balance that?
Yeah, I don't know. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
My fourth takeaway was I was surprised to learn that Michael Bloomberg came to the Blackstone Group for an investment in his burgeoning company. And the Blackstone Group passed on investing in his company.
Oh, wow.
And now Michael Bloomberg is worth $55 billion, whereas Stephen Schwarzman is worth a paltry $19 billion.
A paltry.
Yeah. But this is so interesting.
It is.
And I'm not sure. They didn't really say in the book why they passed on investing in Michael Bloomberg's company, but it's just interesting.
Yeah.
And Michael Bloomberg is a crazy success as well. So both are very intriguing individuals. My fifth takeaway from this book was something called the Thucydides trap. And I thought this was really particularly interesting when Mr. Schwarzman talks about the growth of China and how China's GDP has grown since 1980, from 11% of that of the United States to 67% of the United States in 2019. So basic idea is that China's economy is on pace to eclipse the United States, and their objective is to become, number one in Asia, as well as the world. And it's looking like they're heading that way. And Stephen Schwarzman talks about how, my takeaway from reading this is that he's concerned that the swift growth of the Chinese economy overtaking the U.S. economy could cause an imbalance of culture and power in the world that could potentially lead to war, and something that's called the Thucydides trap by this Harvard historian Graham Allison, who's relating that term to the history of the Peloponnesian War. So he says that as the United States steps back and China steps up, both powers and their dependents will feel unbalanced, out of sync with decades of history, creating a moment when the slightest misunderstanding, resentment, or offense could topple everyone into the trap of war, and that trap being called the Thucydides trap. And so in order to kind of avoid that trap, Stephen Schwarzman took it upon himself to use his own money and also collect investment from other people to start the Schwarzman College and the Schwarzman Scholar Program in Beijing, in an attempt to educate rising really smart people in a one-year program from both the West and the East together in this college in Beijing, using professors and mentorship from people from both the West and the East, so that they could learn more about each other, how they think, learn together, share culture and all that kind of thing, to try to avoid this problem that he foresees occurring in the near future through education and culture sharing. And I was really intrigued by that, because that's something you would think that's a problem you would think nation states would try to solve, which takes me onto a whole other subject that, my belief that nation states are almost irrelevant these days. But anyway, he's trying to solve this problem on his own. And in fact, Barack Obama at the time reached out to him to see if there's anything he and the United States could do to help facilitate what he's doing. And that really struck a chord with me.
So I wonder, sometimes politically, you can't do some of the things you would like to do. And so it takes somebody like a business person and somebody who can not ruffle feathers to get things done. And then the senior leaders or politicians.
The trusted third party. Who's
absolutely. Versus you're trying to take over my country versus, hey, I'm a business guy trying to help us both out.
Right.
So that from a business perspective and some of the stuff that I deal with on a daily basis, that makes perfect sense to me, that he came in and was able to really facilitate this.
See, that's why I like talking to you. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. You're so much smarter than me.
No, hardly.
So that I just thought that was a really interesting take on that, and never heard of that. The Thucydides trap and potential for war between the two.
Interesting.
Two countries.
And the fact that he was willing and able to really take this on is just really powerful.
Yeah. And plus it leaves a great legacy as well.
Absolutely.
Finally, my sixth takeaway from this book was in the last part of the book, he leaves us with 25 rules for work and life. And so coming from a billionaire, this is something you really want to read if you're looking to emulate any kind of similar success in your own life. And so I marked a few of his 25. I'm not going to read all 25, but some of these really resonated with me. So number one, it's as easy to do something big as it is to do something small. So reach for a fantasy worthy of your pursuit with rewards commensurate to your effort. I've read that quote before, but...
Doesn't Grant Cardone say... I hate Grant Cardone, but I know you... Doesn't he say that same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to do something, go big. So, yeah, love that. The best executives is number 2. The best executives are made, not born. The best executives are made, not born.
100% agree with that. It's the whole dichotomy. Like, are leaders born or made? Are leaders born or can you learn it?
And so I want to have another discussion about this on relative to IQ.
Okay.
So, but he says the best executives are made, not born.
100%.
Okay. So let's hold that. Let's put a pin in that and think about and relate that to IQ.
So many things.
Then he says they never stop learning.
Yep.
Study the
Continue
people and
learning.
organizations in your life that have had enormous success. They offer a free course from the real world to help you improve. From the real world.
So it's like mentorship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think along these lines, another good example would be we just finished watching the Queen's Gambit series
good
on Netflix, and there's so many good lessons from that as well, parallels to what we've just been talking about. Like, so she was a very, very good, very smart, intuitive chess player. However, she didn't have what she needed to play the Russians, which was like the Super Bowl of chess. She needed mentors and she needed instruction, even though she was really, really smart all by herself and could beat most people in America. So she had to have mentors and instruction to take it to the next level. So I think that's another key takeaway.
Yeah, definitely. And at the end, like, not to give away the whole story, but at the end when she is in actually head-to-head with the final battle with the Russian dude, they did a ceasefire. I'm not sure what you actually call it in chess, but a ceasefire where it's like, okay, we're gonna pause the game, we'll come back to it tomorrow. And then her friends in America like all studied the board and called her and said, okay, here's like 100 different ways this game could go, because she can't think of it all on her own.
Right.
So having that network of really experts around you to help you achieve and show your blind spots and everything else is so amazing and so powerful.
Yeah, learning from others is key.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But still, there's that. You know, these billionaires aren't on the billionaire list because they're all learning from one another.
Are they?
Are they? I don't know.
Why wouldn't they be?
I don't know. Maybe they are.
Why wouldn't they be?
So maybe we need to get some tickets to Mar-a-Lago or something like
Okay.
that. Palm Beach, Florida, and
sounds
start
great.
hanging out.
Let's do it.
We gotta make up personas for ourselves. Oh yeah, so I'm the founder of.
Are you kidding? I'm Dr. Cynthia Capel.
Oh yeah. I'm just the arm candy. I got it. I'm the low.
You just sit there
I'm
and
the
look
low
pretty,
IQ
baby.
arm candy. I can play. All right. Number 3, write or call the people you admire and ask for advice or a meeting. It's kind of like what we're doing with Dream to Next.
Yeah,
Right?
again, more mentorship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You never know who will be willing to meet with you, and most people won't be. You may end up learning something important or form a connection you can leverage for the rest of your life. Meeting people early in life creates an unusual bond. Number 22, he says, failure is the best teacher in an organization. Talk about failures openly and objectively. Analyze what went wrong. You will learn new rules for decision making and organizational behavior. If evaluated well, failures have the potential to change the course of any organization and make it more successful in the future.
Cultures of risk. Oh my God, so powerful. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's easy to write that, but when failures happen in an organization, it seems like there's typically hell to pay and a lot of finger pointing.
Right.
So this is a really, 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 really freaking hard thing to do.
And the key thing is the leaders have to embrace it. Otherwise, it's people like us who are constantly fighting uphill every day, taking those risks and failing and telling them why we failed. But if the leadership sets the tone that risk is okay, amazing things happen. So that could be really powerful.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're fighting upstream and fighting and fighting and fighting, and then you get tired and leave.
Yeah, it's also in software. It's part of the agile process.
Yeah.
You're supposed to, what part of the sprint went well, what didn't, and it's really difficult to really take failure and change it and use it to change you for the better. It's really, really difficult.
Why?
I'm not seeing that successful.
Why?
Well, one, because you document the failures and then you move on and forget about it. And it's really, it really takes discipline to keep revisiting what you talked about were failures to change those things.
So, okay, I'm looking at it from a learning and development standpoint. We use a similar methodology, like an agile methodology, where we go in, we create something, we test it, we revise it, we test it again. We come back together as a group and have an after-action review saying what went well, what didn't go well, and then we always change the content. And so it's constant change.
Yeah. Okay, finally, number 25, I really liked also because he says, everyone has dreams. Everyone has dreams. Do what you can to help others achieve their dreams.
Most importantly, be a mentor.
What can we do to help others achieve their dreams?
I think part of this is the podcast.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So those are my big takeaways from this book. I really enjoyed it. Steven Schwarzman's Whatever It Takes, the CEO of the Blackstone Group. He's a multi-billionaire, and I wish I just had 0.001% of his net worth. So anyway, nice book. So then that got me thinking, what is what is so special about this billionaire club? Millionaire just seems so passé now. Like, you make a million.
I'd be okay being a millionaire.
Yeah. Would you really? I mean, a millionaire.
Yep, I'd be just fine.
$1 million is nothing now. Like, you can't even defend yourself in court with $1 million, practically. So, that's why when I read Think and Grow Rich, and I set a number for myself to be worth. That's why I chose 100 million, because 100 million is just big enough to be financially free, to where it's almost at the point where it's kind of difficult for entropy to start eating away at that net worth.
Okay.
Whereas, something like 5 million or 1 million to 5 million or whatever, 10 million is still kind of, you can lose that really quick. So 100 million is like a good amount, but $1 billion, now you're talking, right? Like, but what is it about these guys? What is it about the Zuckerbergs and who else is on the billionaire list? The Waltons, and let me just look here at that Forbes list. For 2020,
Bezos.
Of course, Jeff Bezos. You got Bill Gates. A lot of tech guys on here. Also, Warren Buffett, of course, Larry Ellison. My initial thought was, well, is it IQ? Is intelligent quotient, an important thing? And so I Googled that, and I found that CNBC has a quote from Warren Buffett where he says that there is a specific IQ score you need to succeed, and it's 130.
Really?
130 or above, I would think.
For which test?
He doesn't say in this article.
Okay.
It says 130. It's an IQ. So I went to Mensa, who I guess is the adjudicator of all people genius, and they say that you need a 130 IQ or above to be a member of Mensa. What is so special about 130? And it looks like if you can score a 130 on some kind of IQ test, I don't know what kind, but if you can score 130, that puts you in the top 2% of the population. So I think there's something, and maybe IQ is nothing, but it's relatively meaningless, but it somehow helps distinguish you from the 98% of the rest of the population. I don't know. I'm still trying to.
No, that would make sense, because like the IQ test seems to measure your potential or your aptitude, what you're capable of. But like the external environment would have a dramatic impact on that too. So if it's not nurtured, what happens to that potential?
But Schwarzman says executives are not born. They're what was
made.
it? They're made.
100%.
The best executives.
Yep.
So that seems to imply that, I don't know, that maybe it doesn't have much to do with this hard and fast IQ number. I don't know. Maybe it does. Like, I just think it's funny because when I was in 6th grade, I hung out with all the nerds, the smart kids in school, because I like talking about the stuff, Dungeons and Dragons and programming games, and they were the people that I related with. The kid, and all of them were in the gifted and talented program, except for me. So my teacher realized I hung out with them a lot, but I wasn't in most of the classes with them. So she recommended that I test for this gifted and talented program. And part of the test was an IQ test, I think. And I think I came back with like a 75 or something IQ. And they said, there's no way he's going to be in the gifted and talented program.
I married you for your biceps. It's all good.
So I hope that's not the case. I just thought it was so funny. I couldn't even be with my friends,
And yet you were clearly just as smart as they were, and as articulate, and you had the same interests, and you were able to play the same games and write the same code and do all those things.
Yeah.
So that's where I think IQ, that's great. It can measure aptitude, but it doesn't necessarily foster the environment to help you achieve where you need to be.
But one of the things I did learn in 6th grade, even though I wasn't part of their elite club in the gifted and talented program, I hung out with them and I learned how to learn from them.
Exactly. It's how you learn.
I learned to learn faster from them than from my teachers, because I saw how they approached tests and studying and all that. And from that experience, I took that with me to college. And in college, I almost flunked out my freshman year. The first year, I totally... I was.
That's because you were in boot camp.
I was studying business administration, and I was maybe a D student.
Okay, but you have to qualify this. I mean, you were at Citadel, which is like literally an entire year of boot camp.
So I hated to be yelled at by my corporal.
Right. Because it's not like traditional college.
Yeah, it was a military school.
Yeah.
It's a 4-class system. I hated to be yelled at. I absolutely hated to be yelled at by my corporal. And every morning we had to have the inside of our brass and the outside of our brass shined, and all these other things. We had to be dressed to the nines and whatever.
So you're more focused on that than you were studying.
I was more focused on not getting yelled at, because the professors didn't yell at me for having a D.
Yeah.
But my cadre sergeant and corporal did yell at me. So that's where my focus was. But anyway, that's just an excuse. But so I did better my second year once I got all that past me. And then sophomore year I did even better, now that I was no longer a knob. But I still was not getting the grades I wanted, and I decided I wanted to get straight A's. I wanted a 4.0. And I was still struggling. In my sophomore year, I figured out how to make a B on my own, a B average across the board. And still, I'm a liberal arts major. One of my good friends was making 4.0s as a freshman in electrical engineering. And just really, really smart, talented people. And that's not me. I got to work really, really hard to get decent grades.
Yeah.
So I knew the cards were stacked against me, and I knew I had to find somebody to help me. And so I identified one of the smartest liberal arts guys in my company, Eric Reeves. And I asked him if he would mind being my roommate and if he would mind helping me learn how to... And so I was his mentor my junior year. And I was in his same classes as him, changed my degree to political science because he was a political science major, going to be a lawyer. And however Eric took notes, I took notes the same way.
Yeah.
However Eric studied, however long he studied, I studied as long, and I studied longer than him, took notes, whatever. And I ended up getting straight A's my whole junior year.
So does that mean because we interviewed Gretchen Reeves, his sister, for the Patagonia race, that we would get straight A's on Patagonia?
That's why you gotta follow the Reeves, man. You learn from the Reeves. If you want to be successful, follow a Reeves. Yes, absolutely.
And it's pretty amazing that you were able to like transform your habits and be able to achieve what you wanted to achieve through, again, mentorship.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a common theme through many of our interviews. Somebody always had some powerful mentor that really helped them through all of these Dream TEDx podcasts.
Absolutely. And thinking of our most recent podcast, Jim Brown, who was mentored by Arthur Piver back in the days in the beginning of the Trimaran explosion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody's got a mentor, and so that's one thing that gives me hope that, I don't think I have the IQ required to become successful, but I think I have the ability to learn from people with those IQs. Steal from whatever I can get from to learn that information.
Leaders are made, not born.
That's right. Yeah, so I'm going to cling to that. Well, that concludes our episode 15. Thanks for tuning in, and we will be back next week.
Bye, everybody.
Cheers.